Hey guys, tonight we're slipping back a few thousand years right into the dusty, sun-baked heart of ancient Mesopotamia. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a sprawling bazaar in the city of around 2000 BCE. The air's thick with the scent of warm barley and sour goat's milk, and your sandals scuff against gritty clay streets. Merchants holler their voices, tangling with the bleat of sheep and the clink of copper coins. It's chaos, but the kind that feels alive, like the whole world's crammed into one sweaty, spicy marketplace. You're here to taste the ancient world dishes so weird, so wild, you'd probably spit them out faster than you'd dodge a runaway chariot. Spoiler, you wouldn't last an hour in this food scene without a serious stomachache. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. Are you chilling in Chicago at midnight? Or maybe Melbourne at 3 a.m. I'd love to know who's drifting off with me tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take a step forward, and the bazaar swallows you whole. The sun's high, baking the clay stalls into a golden haze. Your nose twitches at a whiff of something sharp, maybe cumin, maybe coriander, mixed with the faint funk of dried fish stacked in wicker baskets. Around you, shoppers haggle over sacks of emmer wheat, their hands stained with red ochre dye. A woman in a linen shawl brushes past her arms, heavy with clay jars sloshing with date syrup. You're not just in a market, you're in the pulse of Mesopotamia, where food wasn't just fuel. It was survival status, and sometimes a straight-up gamble with your guts. Let's talk about that for a sec. The Mesopotamians, especially in cities like or Babylon, were obsessed with food as a cultural cornerstone. Mainstream fact alert, their diet leaned hard on barley, which they turned into bread, beer, and porridges, so thick you could stand a spoon in them. Barley was cheap, grew like a weed in the Fertile Crescent, and kept people fed when the Tigris and Euphrates rivers played nice. You're passing a stall now where a baker kneads a lump of barley dough on a stone slab. The bread's flat, dense, a little gritty under your teeth when you imagine biting it. It's not your fluffy supermarket loaf, this stuff could double as a doorstop. Joke number one. If you think gluten's tough on your tummy now, try chewing this ancient brick bread for breakfast. But it's not just bread catching your eye. You pause at a stall piled high with clay pots, each sealed with a reed stopper. The merchant, a guy with a beard curled tighter than a cinnamon roll, grins and offers you a sample of something questionable. Here's the quirky tidbit. Mesopotamians loved a condiment called siqqu, a fermented fish sauce that was basically their version of ketchup. Except, it smelled like a swamp at high noon. They'd slather it on bread, mix it into stews, or just sip it straight if they were feeling extra. You lean closer to the pot and the briny, fishy stench hits you like a slap. Your eyes water. Is this dinner or a dare joke to forget hot sauce challenges? One whiff of siqqu would have sent TikTok influencers running for the hills. You step back, trying not to gag, and notice the crowd's rhythm. People bartering, laughing, occasionally spitting out a bad date. The fruit, not the Tinder kind. Food here wasn't just about taste, it was about trust. Historians still argue whether Mesopotamian markets had any real food safety standards. Some clay tablets mention priests inspecting grain for mold, but others hint at merchants cutting corners, selling spoiled fish or watered-down beer. Imagine you're buying a jug of stew, and it's got a 50 to 50s hot of giving you the runs for a week. No Yelp reviews to save you, just your nose, and a prayer to the goddess Inanna. The sensory overload's real now. Your skin prickles under the sun's heat, but a breeze carries the cool, earthy dampness of the nearby Euphrates. You hear the sizzle of oil on a clay griddle, where a cook fries little cakes of mashed lentils. They're golden crispy, but you're not sure if that's cumin or just the stall's lingering vibe of eat at your own risk. You're starting to get why food was such a big deal here. It wasn't just sustenance. It was a story of trade routes, bringing spices from far-off lands of farmers, wrestling floods to grow that barley of cooks, trying to make life a little tastier in a world without fridges or FDA guidelines. Before you move deeper into the bazaar, you glance at a kid nearby, munching on a handful of roasted chickpeas. He's happy, carefree, probably unaware that his snack's been a go-to for millennia. Joke 3 chickpeas were the original popcorn, same crunch, but you had to dodge the occasional rock in the mix. You're tempted to grab some, but the fish sauce guy's still eyeing you, and you're not ready to commit to his funky condiment just yet. For now, you keep walking, letting the market's hum pull you toward the next stall where something's simmering in a clay pot, and it's either delicious or a total disaster. You're still weaving through the bustling Mesopotamian bazaar in Ur, the air heavy with dust and the tang of roasted grains. Now you're drawn to a corner where the crowd thins, and a low, rhythmic clatter pulls you in. It's a Sumerian kitchen tucked behind a mud brick wall where clay pots simmer over a smouldering fire. The heat hits you first thick, almost sticky, like standing too close to a campfire. Your sandals crunch on scattered straw, and the scent of something earthy, maybe onions or leeks, mixes with a sour whiff of fermenting barley. This is where the real magic or madness of ancient food happens. And trust me, what's bubbling in those pots isn't your grandma's chicken noodle soup. Picture yourself peering over the shoulder of a cook, her hands rough from years of grinding grain. She's stirring a pot with a reed spoon, the contents glopping like wet cement. This is the heart of Sumerian cuisine, where stews were king. Mainstream fact-time stews in ancient Mesopotamia were a daily staple, packed with whatever was on hand. Barley, lentils, onions, maybe some lamb if you were fancy. These one-pot wonders were cooked slow, soaking up flavors from herbs like dill or cumin, which came from trade routes stretching to modern-day Iran. You can almost taste the broth, thick and slightly chewy, clinging to the roof of your mouth. It's hearty, but let's be real. You'd need jaws of steel to get through a bowl without a nap. The cook glances at you, her eyes narrowing like she knows you're judging her stew. You give a nervous smile and step closer, catching a whiff of something off. That's when you spot it, a smaller pot tucked near the fire, giving off a funky, almost cheesy smell. Here's the quirky tidbit. Sumerians were wild about fermented dairy, especially a yogurt-like goop they made from goat's milk. They'd let it sit in clay jars until it turned tangy, sometimes lumpy, and slather it on bread or mix it into stews for extra zing. You imagine dipping a finger in cool slick with a sour bite that makes your lips pucker. Joke number 1. Forget artisanal kombucha. Sumerians were out here sipping yogurt so tart it could wake a mummy. You're not sure if you're brave enough to try it, but the cook's already ladling some stew into a clay bowl, muttering something in Akkadian. You don't speak the language, but her vibe says, eat or get out. The stew's surface shimmers with a slick of fat, and you spot flecks of green herbs floating like tiny rafts. It's not exactly Instagram-worthy, but it's survival food, born from a world where every calorie counted. Historians still debate how much choice people had in their diets back then. Some clay tablets list lavish feasts for kings with ducks and pomegranates, but for regular folks, it was stew or nothing, maybe with a side of that funky yogurt if the goats were cooperating. Did they love it or just choke it down? No one's sure, but you're betting it was less farm to table. And more, please don't poison me. The sensory overload's kicking in now. Your skin feels gritty from the dust swirling off the street, and the fire's heat prickles your cheeks. You hear the soft pop of embers and the distant haggling from the bazaar like a radio stuck on low. The cook tosses a handful of dried leeks into another pot, and the sharp oniony scent cuts through the smoky air. You're starting to get why these kitchens were sacred spaces, half alchemy, half gamble. Every dish was a fight against spoilage floods, or just plain boredom. You remember that fish sauce from the market stall? Yeah, they're splashing that in here too, and the briny tang makes your nose wrinkle again. Joke 2. Sumerian cooks were the original foodies, except their fusion cuisine was more like fish funk meets barley blob. You take a step back, letting the cook do her thing. Nearby, a kid's sweeping the floor, kicking up clouds of straw dust that catch the sunlight. He's humming, probably dreaming of a sweeter meal, like those date cakes you saw in the market. For a moment you wonder what it's like to grow up eating this stuff, stews that taste like the river yogurt that fights back. It's not glamorous, but it's honest, tied to the land and the people who worked it. Joke 3. If you think kale smoothies are rough, try chugging a Sumerian stew with a side of what's that smell. You're tempted to ask the cook for a taste, but the way she's glaring at that pot makes you think twice. For now, you slip back toward the bazaar, where the next dish is waiting, and it's probably even weirder. You're back in the dusty bustle of Ur's bazaar, but now your nose guides you to a quieter stall where a baker stacks loaves like clay bricks. The air's warm, laced with the nutty scent of roasted barley, and the faint char of an oven tucked behind a reed mat. Your sandals scuff against the packed earth, and you feel the sun's heat easing as shadows stretch across the market. This is where the heartbeat of ancient Mesopotamian life thumps loudest. Bread. Not the fluffy stuff you're used to, but dense, gritty loaves that fueled everyone from farmers to kings. You're about to dive into the daily grind, literally, of ancient diets, and spoiler alert, it's not exactly a five-star experience. You lean closer to the stall, watching the baker. A wiry guy with flour-dusted hands shape dough into flat rounds. His fingers move fast, pressing and flipping while sweat beads on his brow. Mainstream fact: incoming barley was the backbone of the Mesopotamian diet, especially in cities like around 2000 BCE. They ate it as bread, porridge, or even beer. Barley was basically the Swiss Army knife of crops. These loaves, called ninda, were baked daily, sometimes twice, because they went stale faster than you can say pass the fish sauce. You imagine biting into one, it's coarse, with bits of husk that crunch like gravel. Joke 1: forget low-carb diets. Sumerians were out here pressing barley bread for breakfast. The baker catches you staring and tosses you a crusty scrap. You catch it, and it's warm, heavy, like holding a sun-baked stone. The texture's rough, scratching your palm, and when you sniff it, there's a faint sourness, maybe from the wild yeast they used. Here's the quirky tidbit. Sumerians sometimes mix their dough with weird add-ins like crushed date pits or even beer dregs to stretch the grain or add flavor. You're not sure if this loaf's got that special eau de tavern vibe, but the thought makes you hesitate. Is this bread or a science experiment? You give it a tentative nibble, and yep, it's like chewing a slightly tangy brick. Joke 2. If you think sourdough's artisanal, try Sumerian bread. It's got character and a half-life. You glance around, noticing other shoppers, grabbing loaves, some tucking them into linen sacks, others breaking off chunks to munch on the go. Bread wasn't just food here. It was currency status, even an offering to the gods. Historians still argue whether everyone had equal access to it. Clay tablets list rations for workers: 2 loaves a day for a laborer, more for a priest. But was the quality the same? Did the elites get fluffier bread, while the rest choked down husk-filled hockey pucks? You're betting the baker's not spilling those secrets, but his sly grin says he knows more than he's letting on. The sensory wave hits you now. Your skin's gritty with dust, and the oven's heat pulses against your face, carrying a smoky, almost sweet aroma. You hear the soft thump of dough hitting stone, and the distant clatter of the bazaar merchants shouting, goats bleating life humming along. You spot a kid nearby crumbling bread into a bowl of watery stew, probably the same glop you saw simmering in that kitchen. It's not glamorous, but there's something grounding about it, like you're touching the roots of human survival. You remember that fermented fish sauce from the market, sick, and pray nobody's dunking their bread in it. Joke 3: dipping bread in fish sauce. That's Sumerian for I hate my taste buds. You hand the crust back to the baker, who chuckles like he's seen your type before, city folks too soft for real Mesopotamian grub. You're starting to get why bread was sacred here. It wasn't just about filling bellies. It was about community, about turning the river's muddy gifts into something you could share. The stall's getting busier now, and you step aside, letting the crowd swirl around you. Your stomach's rumbling, but you're not sure if it's hunger or just nerves about what's next. Somewhere nearby, there's a whiff of something fishy. Oh no, it's that sauce again. You're not ready for it, but the bazaar's pulling you deeper, and the next dish is bound to be a doozy. You're still in the heart of Ur's buzzing bazaar, but now a sharp, briny stench cuts through the dusty air, pulling you toward a stall draped with reed mats. Your sandals stick slightly to the clay ground, tacky from spilled liquids, and the sun's heat presses against your back like a warm hand. The scent grows stronger, salty, fishy, almost alive, and you spot clay jars stacked high, their rims crusted with something dark and oily. This is no ordinary stall. You've stumbled into the world of siqqu, the fermented fish sauce that Mesopotamians slathered on everything. Buckle up, because this stuff makes durian smell like roses, and you're about to learn why it was the ancient world's most polarizing condiment. You edge closer, and the merchant, a squat man with a tablet-scratched ledger, waves you over. His hands glisten with oil, and he's grinning like he knows you're already regretting this. Mainstream fact alert: siqqu was a cornerstone of Mesopotamian cuisine, made by fermenting fish, guts, heads, and all in salt for weeks, sometimes months. It was like soy sauce's rowdy ancestor, used to flavor stews, bread, or even as a dip for those gritty barley loaves you tried earlier. The process was simple but stinky. Pack fish in jars, let them rot under the sun, then strain the juice. You peer into a jar, and the dark, syrupy liquid sloshes, catching the light. It's unsettling. Joke 1: forget hot wings. One spoonful of siqqu was the original Mesopotamian courage test. The smell's getting to you now. Imagine a tide pool left in a microwave. Your eyes water, and you take a step back, bumping into a woman balancing a basket of onions. She doesn't even flinch at the stench, just scoops a dollop of siqqu into a small clay vial. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mesopotamians swore siqqu wasn't just food, it was medicine. Scratched on a cuneiform tablet, one recipe claims it could cure stomachaches or even bad spirits. You're skeptical, picturing yourself gagging it down while a priest chants nearby. Was it a miracle cure or just a way to scare off demons with your breath? Joke, too sick as medicine. Sure, if your goal was to exercise your appetite, you watch the merchant pour siqqu into a customer's jar, the liquid glugging like molasses. It's not just a condiment, it's a trade empire. Historians still debate how far siqqu travelled. Clay tablets mention it in Babylon and Mari, but did it reach the Indus Valley or Egypt? Some say it was too smelly to transport long distances without complaints. Others argue it was a luxury like truffle oil for the ancient elite. You're betting the neighbours weren't thrilled when a siqqu cart rolled into town. The merchant catches your grimace and laughs, offering you a whiff. You politely decline, but the smell's already clinging to your tunic. The sensory hit's intense now. Your skin feels gritty, coated in bazaar dust, and the air's thick with that fishy tang undercut by the faint sweetness of nearby date stalls. You hear the soft clink of clay lids, and the merchant's low haggle with a buyer, his voice rising when the price dips too low. The stall's reed mat flaps in a breeze, carrying a fleeting coolness from the Euphrates, but it's not enough to clear the sick funk. You remember that barley bread from the last stall, imagine dunking it in this sauce. Your stomach does a little flip. Joke 3 siqqu on bread. That's Mesopotamian for I'm never kissing anyone again. You step away, letting the crowd fill the gap. The merchant's already on to the next customer, unfazed by the stench that's got you reeling. You're starting to see why siqqu was a big deal. It wasn't just food. It was a statement, a way to spice up a world of bland grains and tough meat. But as you wander toward the next stall, you're hoping for something. Anything that smells less like a fish's revenge. The bazaar's hum pulls you forward, and whatever's cooking nearby, it's got to be tamer than this. Right, you've escaped the fishy haze of the siqqu stall, but the bazaar in still hums around you, alive with shouts and the clatter of clay. Your sandals scuff through dust as you follow a new scent, warm, slightly sweet, like oatmeal left too long on the stove. It's coming from a stall where a woman stirs a massive clay pot, her arms moving in slow, practiced circles. The air feels heavy, thick, with the heat of a nearby fire, and your skin prickles with sweat under the Mesopotamian sun. This is the world of spiced grain porridge, the unsung hero of Babylonian breakfasts, and you're about to find out why it was both a comfort food and a chewable challenge. You lean in, watching the porridge bubble, its surface thick and lumpy, flecked with dark specks, maybe cumin or crushed coriander. The woman, her hair tied back with a linen strip, doesn't look up, but you feel her focus, like she's taming the pot with every stir. Mainstream fact-time porridge was a daily go-to in ancient Babylon, especially around 1800 BCE, made from barley or emmer wheat boiled into a gluey mush. It was cheap, filling, and could be jazzed up with herbs, dates, or, yep, that funky sick sauce you're still trying to forget. You imagine scooping a spoonful, it's hot, grainy, sticking to your teeth like edible mortar. Joke 1, forget avocado toast. Babylonian porridge was the original stick. 2, your ribs hipster brunch. The steam rising from the pot carries a faint sweetness, maybe from a drizzle of date syrup, and you catch a whiff of something earthy like wet clay after rain. Here's the quirky tidbit: some Babylonians added crushed locusts to their porridge for extra protein. Not the fancy honey-glazed kind you'll see in modern foodie blogs. These were straight from the field, bugs tossed in for crunch. You picture a spoonful with a tiny leg poking out, and your stomach does a little twirl. Was it a delicacy or just a "we're out of lamb" workaround? You're not volunteering to find out. Joke 2, locust porridge. That's Babylonian for I'm eating my lawn and liking it. You notice a few locals lined up holding chipped clay bowls, their faces patient but hungry. Porridge wasn't just food. It was survival, especially for workers who needed fuel for long days in the fields or at the ziggurat. Historians still debate how much variety regular folks had in their porridge game. Elite recipes on cuneiform tablets mention fancy add-ins like sesame oil or imported saffron, but for the average Babylonian, it was probably plain mush, maybe with a prayer for flavor. Did they dream of better breakfasts? Or was this gritty goop their comfort zone? You're betting the woman stirring that pot has opinions she's not sharing. The sensory overload's real now. Your tunic's damp from the heat and the fire's glow dances on the stall's mud brick wall, casting flickering shadows. You hear the soft glop of porridge being ladled out, and the low murmur of customers bartering someone's offering a handful of onions for an extra scoop. The air's thick with that warm, grainy scent, but a breeze carries a hint of the Euphrates' cool dampness, easing the weight on your chest. You remember the barley bread from earlier. This porridge feels like its softer, lazier cousin, but you're not sure it's any easier to swallow. Joke 3 porridge so thick you could build a ziggurat with it. Call it Babylonian cement. You step back, letting a kid with a smudged face dart in for his bowl. He scoops a fingerful, grinning like it's the best thing ever, and you wonder if he's tasted the locust version yet. The woman at the pot finally glances up, her eyes, sharp but kind, like she's sizing up whether you're brave enough for a taste. You're tempted, but the memory of siqqu's stench is still haunting you, and this porridge looks like a commitment. For now, you let the bazaar's current pull you onward toward the next strange dish, hoping it's less buggy. You've left the porridge stall behind its warm, grainy scent, fading as you weave through Ur's bustling bazaar. Now a new aroma pulls you forward, smoky, earthy, with a hint of something sharp like charred wood or overripe fruit. Your sandals slap against the clay street, kicking up dust that sticks to your sweaty skin, and the Mesopotamian sun is dipping lower, painting the stalls in a golden haze. You're heading toward the river now, where a cluster of mud brick ovens glows along the Nile's distant cousin, the Euphrates. This is ancient Egypt around 1500 BCE, and you're about to step into a bakery where bread was life, but the side dishes. They're weird enough to make you rethink lunch. You pause at an open-air setup, where a baker kneads dough on a stone slab, her hands dusted white with barley flour. The oven behind her, a dome of mud and straw, radiates heat, making your face tingle like you're too close to a campfire. The air's thick with the scent of baking bread, but there's something else. A sweet, almost medicinal tang. Mainstream fact alert: Egyptian bread called tar was the cornerstone of diets across the Nile Valley. Made from emmer, wheat or barley, it was baked in these clay ovens, often shaped into flat rounds or conical loaves for temple offerings. You watch a loaf come out golden and steaming, its crust cracked like desert ground. It's dense, chewy, and surprise full of sand from the grinding stones. Joke 1 Egyptian bread, where grit wasn't just a personality trait. You're handed a warm chunk by a kid, helping the baker, his fingers sticky with something syrupy. You sniff it, catching that strange sweetness again, and notice a nearby basket filled with bugs. Here's the quirky tidbit. Egyptians loved honeyed locusts as a snack, especially in lean times. These weren't your average backyard critters. They were caught, roasted, and drizzled with honey until they glistened like tiny candies. You imagine popping one in your mouth, crunchy, sweet, with a faint nutty aftertaste that screams, "I'm eating a bug." Your stomach does a little flip. Was this a treat or a dare? Joke 2 honeyed locusts, Egypt's version of dessert, but make it creepy. The baker's working fast now, sliding more loaves into the oven with a wooden peel. Around you, locals barter for bread, some offering dried fish or bundles of papyrus. Bread was more than food here. It was wages offerings, even a status symbol. Historians still debate how common these locust snacks were. Some say they were a peasant's protein fix when meat was scarce. Others argue even pharaohs munched them at banquets paired with beer. Did the elite really chow down on bugs? Or was it just for the poor folks grinding wheat by the Nile? You're betting the baker's seen it all, but her focused frown isn't spilling any royal gossip. The sensory waves hitting hard. Your skin's gritty with dust and sweat, and the oven's heat wraps around you like a too-tight hug. The air carries that smoky bread scent, undercut by the river's cool, muddy dampness, and you hear the soft crackle of the fire mixing with the baker's low hum, a work song maybe. You remember that barley porridge from This Egyptian bread feels like its crunchier cousin, but those locusts, they're a whole new level of no thanks. Joke 3 locusts for dessert. That's Egyptian for, "I'll stick to the bread, please." You take a tentative bite of the loaf, and yep, there's that sandy crunch. It's not bad, but you're spitting out more grit than you're swallowing. You hand the rest of the bread back to the kid, who shrugs like he's used to picky eaters. The baker's already on to the next batch, and the crowd's growing as the sun sinks lower. You're starting to get why food was sacred here. Every loaf, every bug, was a fight against hunger in a land ruled by floods and droughts. But as you turn away from the ovens, a new smell drifts over something rich, maybe chocolatey from a far-off land. The bazaar's done with you yet, and the next dish is calling. You've slipped away from the smoky Egyptian bakery, the gritty taste of sandy bread, still lingering on your tongue. The bazaar's energy has faded into a distant hum as you follow the Euphrates' cool, muddy scent, but now a sharper, almost syrupy aroma tugs you toward a new scene. Your sandals sink into softer earth damp from the Nile's overflow, and the air feels lighter, tinged with a sweet insect-like buzz. You're still in ancient Egypt around 1500 BCE, standing by a reed-lined riverbank where a woman tends a clay tray over a low fire. The heat's gentler here, but your skin prickles with the sticky warmth of late afternoon. Those honeyed locusts you spotted earlier, they're front and center now, and you're about to learn why Egyptians crunched on bugs like they were popcorn. You crouch closer, watching the woman drizzle amber honey over a pile of roasted locusts, their tiny bodies glistening in the firelight. The scent is wild sweet, nutty with a faint charred edge that makes your nose twitch. Mainstream fact time: insects like locusts were a legit protein source in ancient Egypt, especially for folks who couldn't afford meat. They were cheap, plentiful during plagues, and easy to prepare roast-season eat. These ones are coated in honey, probably from local beehives, turning them into a sticky, crunchy snack. You imagine popping one in your mouth. It's crisp like a burnt chip, with a burst of sweetness that almost hides the bug factor. Almost. Joke 1: Egyptian locusts when your protein bar comes with wings and a side of regret. The woman catches your stare and offers you a locust, holding it out like it's no big deal. Her hands are tacky with honey, and her linen tunic stained with soot. You hesitate, your stomach doing a little somersault. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Egyptians believed eating locusts could ward off bad luck. A few surviving papyrus scraps mention them as offerings to Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, maybe to appease her wrath during pest-filled seasons. You picture yourself munching one under her statue, hoping it'll keep locust swarms from eating your crops. Is it superstition, or just a clever way to make bugs sound holy? Joke 2: Locusts as offerings. That's Egypt's way of saying, "Take these bugs, goddess, not my barley." You're still debating whether to try one when a kid nearby grabs a handful, crunching them like candy. The sound's sharp, like stepping on dry leaves, and you wince. Insects weren't just survival food. They were part of the culture, from peasant huts to temple feasts. Historians still argue how widespread locust eating was across social classes. Some say it was mostly for the poor, a last resort when fish or fowl ran low. Others point to banquet records, suggesting even nobles nibbled them as a delicacy, maybe to flex their I'll-eat-anything vibes. Did pharaohs really snack on these, or was it just the river folk making do? The woman's calm smile isn't giving you any clues. The sensory hit's vivid now. Your skin's damp from the river's mist, and the fire's gentle warmth brushes your face, carrying that sticky sweet honey scent. You hear the faint buzz of real locusts in the reeds blending with the fire's soft crackle and the woman's low hum as she works. The Nile's earthy dampness lingers in the air, grounding you, but those glistening bugs are stealing the show. You remember that sick sauce from that fishy nightmare, and realize these locusts might actually be less offensive. Joke 3: Honeyed locusts over fish sauce. Egypt's winning the least gross award barely. You politely wave off the offered locust, earning a shrug from the woman. She's already back to her tray, drizzling more honey like it's an art form. You're starting to see why food here was more than sustenance. It was a story of resourcefulness, turning plagues into snacks, floods into fields. The riverbank's quieting now, the sun dipping low, and you feel the pull of another scent, something richer, maybe from a far-off land. The ancient world's not done with you yet, and the next dish is waiting to surprise you. You're slipping away from the Nile's damp riverbank, the sticky sweet scent of honeyed locusts fading behind you. The air shifts, growing warmer, heavier, as you find yourself in a new place. Pompeii 79 CE, at the edge of a bustling Roman villa. Your sandals crunch on mosaic tiles, cool and slick underfoot, and the late afternoon sun bathes the courtyard in a golden glow. A rich, savoury aroma wafts from a long table set for a feast where platters gleam with oil and steam. The chatter of guests, toga-clad and wine-flushed, mixes with the clink of bronze cups. You're about to crash a Roman banquet, and the dishes here, they're lavish, weird, and definitely not for the faint-hearted. You sidle up to the table, your tunic brushing against a marble bench still warm from the sun. Servants weave through the crowd, balancing trays of glistening food. Mainstream fact alert: Roman feasts, especially for the elite, were over-the-top displays of wealth, with courses stretching for hours. Think roasted peacock, stuffed sow's udders, and fish swimming in peppered sauces. The table before you groans under platters of boiled ostrich, sliced pork, drizzled with honey, and bowls of olives, glistening like tiny black pearls. You imagine grabbing a bite, the pork's tender, sweet but heavy, with spices that burn your throat. Joke 1: Roman feasts where all you can eat meant hope you brought stretchy togas. Your eyes land on a clay bowl filled with a dark, oily liquid, its surface shimmering in the torchlight. That briny, fishy whiff hits you, and oh no, it's familiar. Here's the quirky tidbit: this is garum Rome's answer to Mesopotamia's siqqu, a fermented fish sauce so potent it could wake a coma patient. Made from fish guts left to rot in salt under the sun, garum was the ketchup of the Roman world, splashed on everything from bread to peacock. You lean closer and the stench is like a salty punch to the face. Some Romans swore it was an aphrodisiac, which, good luck with that. Joke 2: garum as a love potion, only if your date's into Odie anchovy. The guests don't seem fazed, dipping bread into the stuff like it's no big deal. You spot a senator type, his fingers dripping with garum, as he gestures wildly, probably bragging about his new villa. Feasts like this weren't just about food, they were power plays, where hosts flexed their wealth and connections. Historians still debate how common garum was outside the elite. Amphorae of it have been found from Britain to Egypt, suggesting it was a staple. But was it on every peasant's table, or just for the toga crowd? You're betting the servants pouring wine aren't getting a splash of the fancy stuff. The sauce's smell lingers, and you step back, hoping it doesn't cling to your tunic like that siqqu did back in Ur. The sensory overload's intense. Your skin feels the courtyard's fading warmth, but a breeze carries the sharp tang of garum mixed with sweeter notes, maybe mulsum, that honeyed wine the Romans loved. You hear the soft strumming of a lyre blending with laughter and the clatter of plates. The table's a riot of colours: ruby-red pomegranates, golden dormice, roasted whole, and that ever-present garum glinting like liquid amber. You remember Egypt's locusts. This feast feels like a glow-up, but that fish sauce is giving you sick flashbacks. Joke 3: garum versus siqqu. It's like choosing between a skunk and a wet dog. You're tempted to grab an olive, something safe, but a servant's already eyeing you like you don't belong. The feast is in full swing, and the next course is coming, something small, suspiciously round, and definitely not vegetarian. You're not sure you're ready, but the Roman world doesn't wait, and the table's pulling you deeper into its strange, decadent spread. You're still at the lavish Roman feast in Pompeii, the courtyard buzzing with tipsy laughter and the clink of bronze cups. The air's warm, heavy with the scent of olive oil, and that pungent garum you're trying to dodge. Your sandals stick slightly to the mosaic floor, tacky from spilled wine, and torchlight flickers across the table, glinting off platters piled high with food. Your nose twitches at a familiar briny whiff, and yep, there it is again. A clay jug of garum, the fishy lifeblood of Roman cuisine. You're about to dive deeper into this fermented funk, and trust me, it's not getting any less intense. You edge closer to a servant, pouring garum over a dish of roasted partridges, the sauce dripping like dark honey. The smell hits you salty sharp like a fish market on a hot day. Mainstream fact-time garum was a Roman obsession, produced in massive factories along the Mediterranean coast, from Hispania to North Africa. Made by fermenting fish guts, blood and salt in huge vats, it was strained into grades: fancy garum for senators, cheaper stuff for soldiers. You imagine tasting it slick, umami packed with a kick that lingers like bad news. It's on everything here: bread, meat, even fruit. Joke 1: garum was Rome's Wi-Fi. Everybody's connected whether they like it or not. You notice a guest. A woman in a silk stola dabbing garum onto her plate with a silver spoon like it's liquid gold. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Romans used garum as a cure-all, swearing it fixed everything from indigestion to dog bites. Medical texts by folks like Pliny the Elder mention it as a salve or tonic mixed with herbs or wine. You picture slathering fish sauce on a scraped knee, and wince talk about adding insult to injury. Was it science or just wishful thinking? Either way, you're not volunteering for the garum spa treatment. Joke 2: garum as medicine. Sure, if your goal's to smell like a shipwreck, the feast's chaos swirls around you. A poet's reciting something dramatic, but nobody's listening, they're too busy grabbing food. Garums everywhere splashed into bowls, drizzled on dormice, even mixed into a weird pear dessert. Historians still debate whether garum was a status symbol or just a kitchen staple. Elite villas had special garum amphorae, stamped with brand names like modern craft beer. But archaeologists also find it in grubby taverns. Did plebs love it as much as the rich, or were they just stuck with the budget version? You're betting the servant refilling that jug isn't thrilled about the stench, but he's keeping his mouth shut. The sensory wave's overwhelming. Your skin's warm from the courtyard's trapped heat, but a breeze carries the cool, salty tang of the nearby sea, mingling with garum's fishy assault. You hear the soft glug of sauce being poured, and the clatter of plates as guests dig in. The table's a mess. Olive pits, gnawed bones and garum stains spreading like ink. You remember that sick from It's like garum's distant cousin, but this Roman version feels fancier, if only slightly less nose. Searing. Joke 3, garum versus sick. It's like choosing between a punch and a kick, both leave you reeling. You step back, dodging a servant with a fresh garum jug. The feast is peaking and the guests are getting rowdier, their faces flushed with wine and sauce. You're starting to get why garum was a big deal. It wasn't just flavour. It was Rome's way of shouting, "We've got the world on our plates." But as you glance at the table, something small and suspiciously rodent-shaped catches your eye. The next dish is coming, and it's definitely not for the squeamish. You brace yourself, hoping it's garum-free, but the Roman world's got more surprises up its sleeve. You're still caught in the whirlwind of the Roman feast in Pompeii, the courtyard pulsing with laughter and the clink of wine cups. The air's thick with the lingering stench of garum and the sweeter notes of honeyed wine, and your sandals scuff against the mosaic floor, now slick with spilled sauce. Torchlight dances across the table, illuminating platters of half-eaten peacock and olive pits scattered like confetti. Your nose twitches at a new scent, savoury, slightly charred, with a whiff of something odd. You lean closer and spot a small dish of golden, bite-sized morsels glistening with oil. Oh no, those aren't meatballs. You've just stumbled onto one of Rome's weirdest delicacies, stuffed dormice. Buckle up, because this is about to get squeaky. You hover near the table, watching a guest pop one of these tiny treats into his mouth, chewing with a grin like it's no big deal. Mainstream fact alert: dormice were a legit Roman delicacy, especially at elite banquets like this one in 79 CE. They were raised in special clay jars called gliraria, fattened on nuts and grains, until they were plump little snacks. Then they were stuffed with pork herbs, and sometimes garum, because of course before being roasted or boiled. You imagine biting into one crispy skin, a burst of fatty meat and a texture that's disturbingly soft. Joke 1, dormice at a feast, Rome's way of saying, "We ate your pet hamster and it was delicious." The servant nearby, balancing a tray of these critters, gives you a side-eye like he's daring you to try one. The dormice are arranged neatly, their tiny bodies curled as if napping, which only makes it weirder. Here's the quirky tidbit. Romans believed dormice brought good luck, especially at weddings or big deals. Some texts mention them as offerings to Fortuna, the goddess of chance. Maybe because catching the little guys was a gamble in itself. You picture tossing a roasted dormouse on an altar, hoping for a winning chariot bet. Is it superstition, or just an excuse to eat something cute? Joke 2, lucky dormice. Only if your idea of fortune's finding fur in your teeth. You notice the guests gobbling them up, some dipping the dormice in honey for extra flair. This feast is peak Roman excess food, as status as spectacle. Historians still debate how common dormice were outside the rich folks' tables. Apicius, the famous Roman foodie, left recipes for them, but did regular folks in Pompeii's back streets munch on these? Or was it a senator's only vibe? Archaeologists have found gliraria in modest homes, so maybe the middle class got in on the bruise. Action. You're betting the servant holding that tray isn't sneaking any, though his grimace says he's over the whole dormouse craze. The sensory hit's vivid now. Your skin's warm, tingling from the courtyard's trapped heat, and a breeze carries the faint salt of the nearby Bay of Naples, cutting through the oily, meaty aroma of the dormice. You hear the soft sizzle of a fresh batch hitting the grill, blending with the guests' slurred chatter and a lyre's lazy strum. The table's a chaotic still-life garum, stains gnawed bones, and those dormice staring up like tiny edible accusations. You remember Egypt's locusts, bugs were bad, but mice, that's a new level of nope. Joke 3, dormice versus locusts, Rome's winning the grossest snack award, pours down. You step back, dodging a guest who's had too much wine and is gesturing wildly about Vesuvius or something. You're not grabbing a dormouse no matter how lucky they're supposed to be. The feast is still roaring, but your eyes catch a new dish being carried out, something less furry, thank goodness. The Roman table's not done with you yet, and whatever's next, you're hoping it's a little less alive. You've managed to sidestep the dormouse disaster at the Roman feast in Pompeii, but the courtyard's still a swirl of laughter, clinking cups, and that ever-present garum stench. Your sandals scrape against the mosaic floor, now gritty with crumbs and wine splashes, and the torchlight casts long shadows over the table's chaotic spread. A new aroma catches you, nutty, slightly smoky, with a hint of something metallic. You're drawn to a cluster of servants, hauling clay pots from a nearby kitchen, their contents steaming in the cooling evening air. You're no longer in Rome's orbit. You've slipped eastward to the Han dynasty, around 100 CE Street, Anding, in a bustling Chinese market. The dish: a sizzling stir-fry of millet and who knows what else. Let's just say it's not takeout friendly. You hover near a stall where a cook, his tunic stained with oil, works a wide, shallow wok over a crackling fire. The heat's intense, licking at your face like a too-close candle, and your skin prickles with sweat. Mainstream fact-alert stir-frying was a Han dynasty staple born from the need to cook fast and save fuel. Millet, a cheap grain, was the go-to base, tossed with leeks, pork, or whatever scraps were around. The wok's contents hiss and pop, a golden mix of grains and greens glistening with sesame oil. You imagine scooping a bite, it's crunchy, savory, with a chewy edge that sticks to your teeth. Joke one Han stir-fry where fast food meant hope you like millet surprise. The cook flips the wok with a practiced flick, and a whiff of toasted grain hits you, undercut by something sharp, maybe fermented bean paste. Here's the quirky tidbit. Han cooks sometimes threw in dried cicadas for extra crunch, especially in lean times. These weren't fancy bugs like Egypt's locusts. They were plucked from trees, roasted and tossed in like crispy croutons. You picture one staring up from your bowl, its wings folded like a bad origami project. Your stomach does a little twist. Was this a protein hack or just a we're out of pork vibe? Joke 2: cicada stir-fry. That's Han for I ordered vegetarian, but sure, bugs work. You watch locals crowd the stall, holding chipped bowls and bartering with copper coins or handfuls of dried herbs. Food here was survival, but also art, every stir-fry. A balance of flavors, even if the ingredients were weird. Historians still debate how common insect eating was in Han China. Some texts like the Shenong Benshao list bugs as medicinal, but did regular folks eat them daily? Or was it a last resort for peasants? Excavated market sites show cicada shells, so someone was chowing down. You're betting the cook's not spilling whether his elite customers get bug-free bowls, but his sly grin says he's seen pickier eaters than you. The sensory waves vivid. Your skin's damp from the market's humid air, and the wok's heat pulses against your cheeks, carrying that nutty, oily aroma. You hear the rhythmic scrape of the cook's spatula and the soft haggling of buyers, their voices blending with the fire's crackle. The stall's a mess. Spilled millet leek scraps and a stray cicada leg you're trying not to notice. You remember Rome's dormice. Bugs in your food are starting to feel like a theme, and you're not loving it. Joke 3: cicadas in stir-fry. At least they're not as furry as Pompeii's snacks. You step back, letting a kid dart in with his bowl, grinning like millet's the best thing ever. The cook's already onto the next batch, tossing in a handful of something suspiciously crunchy. You're starting to get why food was sacred here. Every dish was a fight against scarcity, a way to make the land's gifts last. But as the market's hum pulls you forward, a new scent, something sour, maybe pickled, drifts from another stall. The ancient world's got more tricks up its sleeve, and you're bracing for the next culinary curveball. You're still in the steamy bustle of the Han dynasty market, the smoky scent of stir-fried millet fading as you weave through the crowd. Your sandals slap against the packed dirt, now sticky with spilled oil, and the evening air carries a cool, damp edge from a nearby river. A new smell hooks you sour sharp like vinegar left out too long. You follow it to a stall piled high with clay jars, their lids sealed with wax and straw. The vendor, a wiry woman with ink-stained fingers, is scooping something pale and slimy into a bowl. You've stumbled into the world of Han China's pickled eggs, a snack that's equal parts preservation and punishment. Get ready, because this one's a nose-wrinkler. You lean closer, and the sour tang hits you like a slap, mixed with a faint whiff of garlic and herbs. The eggs submerged in a cloudy brine bob, like ghostly moons in their jars. Mainstream fact alert: pickling was a big deal in Han China around 100 CE as a way to store food through harsh winters or long trade routes. Eggs, duck, or chicken were soaked in salt, vinegar, and spices, for weeks, turning them into tangy, shelf-stable protein bombs. You imagine cracking one open, the yolks chalky, the white rubbery, with a bite that stings your tongue. Joke 1: Han pickled eggs when you want breakfast to taste like regret. The vendor catches your grimace and chuckles, offering you a sample. Her hands are slick with brine, and you notice a faint green tinge on her fingertips, maybe from some funky herb in the mix. Here's the quirky tidbit: some Han picklers added silkworm pupae to the brine for extra flavor. These weren't just eggs. They were a sour, buggy stew with pupae floating like tiny, shriveled surprises. You picture biting into an egg and getting a chewy pupa. Instead, your stomach does a full-on backflip. Was this a gourmet twist, or just a way to use up silkworm leftovers? Joke 2: silkworm eggs. That's hand for eye pickled my entire nightmares. You watch a customer, a trader, with a dusty cloak slurp an egg like it's no big deal, his face barely twitching at the sour kick. Pickled foods were a lifeline here, especially for travelers or soldiers who needed grub that wouldn't spoil. Historians still debate how widespread these buggy brines were. Some records, like those from the Han Shu, mention pickled eggs in elite banquets, but were pupae a delicacy or a peasant's trick to stretch the jar? Archaeological digs find jars with weird residues, so someone was eating this stuff. You're betting the vendor's not telling whether her best customers get the pupa-free batch, but her sly wink says she knows you're not ready. The sensory hit's intense. Your skin's clammy from the market's humid air, and the stall's sour stench clings to your tunic, battling the river's muddy coolness. You hear the soft clink of clay lids, and the vendor's low haggle, her voice rising when a buyer tries to lowball her. The jars glint in the fading light, their contents looking more like potions than food. You remember those cicadas in the stir-fry bugs again? The ancient world's got a thing for creepy crawlies, and you're starting to feel like a bug magnet. Joke: 3 pickled pupae. At least they're not as furry as Rome's dormice, right? You wave off the sample, earning a shrug from the vendor who's already scooping for the next customer. You're getting why pickling mattered. It wasn't just food. It was time away to hold on to summer's bounty when winter loomed. The market's still humming, and a new scent, something rich, maybe chocolatey, drifts from a distant stall. You're not sure you're ready for another surprise, but the ancient world's pulling you deeper, and the next dish is bound to be just as wild. You've slipped away from the sour sting of the pickled egg stall. The Han Dynasty market's bustle softening as you move toward a new scent, rich, earthy, with a spicy kick that warms your nose. Your sandals crunch on gravel, the air now cooler, as twilight settles over the ancient world. You're no longer in China. You've landed in Chichen Itza, a Mayan city around 800 CE, where a plaza hums with traders and the clatter of clay pots. The heat's softer here, but your skin's still tacky from humidity, and a faint jungle dampness clings to the air. You're drawn to a vendor stirring a frothy dark liquid in a gourd, its surface bubbling like a witch's brew. This is Mayan cacao, the spicy ancestor of hot chocolate, and it's about to blow your modern taste buds away. You crouch near the vendor, a woman with jade beads woven into her hair as she grinds cacao beans on a stone matate. The scent's intoxicating, deep bitter, with a fiery edge from chili peppers tossed into the mix. Mainstream fact alert: cacao was sacred to the Maya, used in rituals, trade, and as a drink for elites and warriors. Unlike your sugary cocoa, this was a frothy, unsweetened sludge of ground cacao water, and spices like chili or vanilla served warm or cold. You imagine sipping it. It's thick, gritty, with a heat that burns your throat and a bitterness that lingers. Joke 1: Mayan cacao when hot chocolate means spicy liquid courage. The vendor pours the drink into a clay cup, her hands steady, despite the sticky cacao smudging her fingers. You catch a whiff of something floral, maybe achiote swirling in the froth. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayan recipes added ground maize or even frog spawn to thicken the drink, believing it boosted stamina for battles or ceremonies. You picture tiny frog eggs floating in your cup like tapioca from a swamp. Your stomach does a little lurch. Was this a power-up, or just a way to make priests gag during rituals? Joke 2: frog spawn cacao. That's Mayan for I'll stick to decaf, thanks. You watch a trader, his feathered headdress bobbing, sip the drink with reverence like it's a gift from the gods. Cacao wasn't just a beverage. It was currency status, a link to the divine. Historians still debate how common cacao drinks were among regular Maya. Glyphs and pottery show elites guzzling it at feasts. But did farmers or artisans get a taste? Or was it strictly for the jaguar pelt crowd? Some digs find cacao residue in humble homes, so maybe the masses got a watered-down version. You're betting the vendor's not spilling who gets the frog-free batch, but her calm nod says she's seen pickier drinkers than you. The sensory waves vivid, your skin's damp from the jungle's humid breath, and the cacao's spicy aroma wraps around you, cut by the faint green scent of nearby ceiba trees. You hear the soft grind of the metate, the vendor's low chant, and the distant thud of a ball game in the plaza. The gourd's froth glints in the fading light, tempting, but intimidating. You remember Han's pickled eggs, slimy sour buggy. This cacao's a step up, but those frog eggs. Nope. Joke 3 frog spawning cacao. Suddenly Rome's dormice are looking downright cuddly. You wave off the offered cup, earning a raised eyebrow from the vendor who's already pouring for a warrior with a scar across his cheek. You're starting to get why cacao was sacred. It wasn't just a drink. It was a story of sweat trade and gods in every bitter sip. The plaza's still alive, and a new scent, something starchy, maybe maize, drifts from a nearby stall. The Mayan world's got more to serve, and you're bracing for the next strange taste. You're still in the vibrant heart of Chichen Itza, the Mayan plaza's energy pulsing around you as twilight deepens. The spicy kick of cacao lingers in your nose, but now a new scent pulls you forward, earthy, warm like corn roasting on a fire. Your sandals scuff against the limestone pavement, smooth but gritty with dust, and the humid air clings to your skin, leaving a faint sheen of sweat. You're drawn to a stall where a woman kneads dough on a flat stone, her hands dusted with maize flour. Steam rises from a clay griddle, where bundles wrapped in green leaves sizzle softly. You've stumbled onto tamales, the Mayan comfort food that's been around forever, and you're about to unwrap a taste of Mesoamerican life. You lean closer, the griddle's heat brushing your face like a warm breath. The tamales tucked in banana leaves give off a sweet, starchy aroma, mixed with something savory, maybe chili or shredded turkey. Mainstream fact alert: tamales were a staple across Mesoamerica, especially for the Maya around 800 CE. Made from maize dough called masa, they were stuffed with meat, vegetables, or even flowers, then steamed in leaves to lock in flavor. You imagine peeling one open, the dough's soft, slightly grainy, with a filling that's spicy and tender. It's like a portable meal, perfect for traders or warriors. Joke 1 tamales Mayan takeout, minus the delivery app, and plus a side of jungle. The woman flips a tamale with a practiced hand, her fingers nimble, despite the sticky dough clinging to them. You catch a whiff of something sharp, maybe ground achiote, buried in the mix. Here's the quirky tidbit: some Mayan tamales included ants, either ground into the dough or as a filling for a nutty crunch. These weren't just any ants, think big juicy ones harvested from nests and toasted like tiny seeds. You picture biting into a tamale and crunching an ant, its tangy zing hitting your tongue. Your stomach does a little twirl. Was this a delicacy? Or just a "we're out of turkey" hack? Joke 2 ant tamales, that's Mayan for "I ordered tacos, not an insect party." You watch a family nearby unwrapping tamales and sharing them with quick, happy gestures. Tamales weren't just food. They were community, used in feasts, offerings, or even burials to feed the dead. Historians still debate how common insect fillings were. Elite Maya left glyphs bragging about fancy tamales with deer or fish. But digs find ant remains in kitchen middens, suggesting regular folks ate them too. Were ants a treat for all or a peasant's protein boost? The woman at the griddle's focused stare isn't spilling any secrets, but you're betting she's got stories about picky eaters. The sensory hit's rich now. Your skin's damp from the plaza's humid air, and the griddle's warmth radiates, carrying that maize-heavy scent with a hint of charred leaves. You hear the soft sizzle of tamales cooking, the woman's low hum, and the distant cheers from a ball game echoing off the pyramids. The stall's a mess: scattered corn husks, a smudge of chili paste, and a stray ant you're pretending not to see. You remember that frog spawn cacao from the last stall bugs again. The Maya love their creepy crawlies as much as the Han did. Joke 3 ants in tamales. Suddenly those pickled eggs are looking like a 5-star meal. You hesitate when the woman offers you a tamale, its leaf steaming in her hand. You're tempted, the maize smells amazing, but the ant thing's got you spooked. You give a polite smile and step back, letting a kid with a woven basket grab one instead. You're starting to get why tamales were sacred. They were work, love, and survival wrapped in a leaf. The plaza's still alive, and a new scent, something tangy, maybe fermented, drifts from another stall. The Mayan world's not done with you, and the next dish is calling. You're still in the lively Chichen Itza plaza, the warm, starchy scent of tamales fading as you weave through the Mayan crowd. Your sandals scuff against the limestone, now cool under the deepening twilight, and the humid air leaves a faint stickiness on your skin. A new aroma tugs you forward, spicy, almost smoky, like roasted peppers left too long over a fire. You're drawn to a stall where a man grinds ingredients on a stone mortar, his hands stained red with spice. The air's thick with the scent of cumin and something earthier, maybe turmeric. You've crossed into the Indus Valley Harappa around 2000 BCE, and you're about to dive into a curry-like dish that's the ancient ancestor of your favorite takeout. But don't get too excited, it's got some surprises. You hover near the stall, the mortar's rhythmic thud mixing with the soft crackle of a nearby fire. The man scoops a reddish paste into a clay pot where it simmers with lentils and barley. Mainstream fact alert: the Indus Valley civilization was big on spice blends, early versions of what we'd call curry using ingredients like cumin, coriander, and wild turmeric. These dishes cooked in clay pots were staples for urban Harappans, blending grains, pulses, and whatever greens the monsoon blessed them with. You imagine tasting it thick, gritty, with a slow burn that warms your chest. Joke 1: Harappan curry, when spicy meant hope you brought your own river. The paste's aroma is intense, smoky, and sharp, with a faint sweetness, maybe from dried plums tossed in the mix. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Harappan cooks added crushed river snails to their pots, believing the slimy critters boosted flavor and maybe even virility. You picture a snail shell bobbing in your bowl, its chewy meat blending with the spices. Your stomach does a little shimmy. Was this a gourmet flex, or just a way to use up whatever crawled into the kitchen? Joke 2: Snail curry. That's Harappan, for I'll pass on the protein shake. You watch a trader, his cotton tunic dusty from the road ladle, the dish into a clay bowl, eating with quick practice scoops. Food here was more than fuel. It was trade community, a link to the rivers that made Harappa thrive. Historians still debate how common these snail-laced dishes were. Seals and pottery show fish and lentils were staples, but snail shells in kitchen dumps hint at a broader menu. Did everyone eat them, or were snails a poor man's meat shunned by the elite? The man at the mortar's focused grunt isn't spilling any tea, but you're betting he's seen customers spit out a shell or two. The sensory waves vivid. Your skin's clammy from the monsoon's lingering humidity, and the fire's heat pulses carrying that spicy, smoky scent. You hear the mortar's steady grind, the soft bubble of the pot, and the distant clatter of ox carts in the city's streets. The stall's a mess, spilled lentils, a smear of turmeric, and a stray snail shell you're trying to ignore. You remember the Mayan ant tamales, bugs, snails, what's next? The ancient world's got a thing for slimy surprises. Joke 3: Snails in curry. Suddenly those frog-spawn cacao drinks are looking downright gourmet. You hesitate when the man offers you a bowl, its steam curling in the twilight. The curry smells amazing, but the snail thing's got you spooked. You give a polite nod and step back, letting a kid with a woven sack grab a serving instead. You're starting to get why these dishes mattered. They were survival ingenuity, a way to turn the river's gifts into flavor. The plaza's still humming, and a new scent, something sour, maybe dairy, drifts from a distant stall. The ancient world's got more to serve, and you're bracing for the next weird bite. You've left the spicy haze of the Harappan curry stall behind the Indus Valley's bustling market fading as you follow a new scent, sour, tangy like milk left out in the sun. Your sandals crunch on dry grass, the air now cooler but heavy with the musky warmth of grazing animals. You're no longer in Harappa. You've stepped into the steppes of Central Asia among the nomadic Scythians around 500 BCE. The twilight sky stretches wide, and you're drawn to a felt tent where a woman stirs a clay pot over a smouldering fire. The scent's sharp, almost cheesy, and you spot a leather sack dripping with pale liquid. This is fermented mare's milk, the Scythians' go-to drink, and it's about to test your gag reflex. You crouch near the fire, its gentle heat brushing your face, though the chilly steppe breeze nips at your skin. The woman, her hands rough from years of milking, pours the milky liquid into a wooden bowl, its surface frothy and slightly lumpy. Mainstream fact alert: fermented mare's milk, called kumis, was a staple for the Scythians. a nomadic people who roamed from the Black Sea to Mongolia. High in nutrients and mildly alcoholic, it was made by churning mare's milk in leather bags until it soured and fizzed. You imagine sipping it tart fizzy with a creamy bite that coats your tongue. Joke 1 kumis, when your milkshake comes with a side of horse and a buzz. The smell's intense now, like yogurt gone rogue, with a faint grassy note from the mares grazing nearby. Here's the quirky tidbit. Scythians sometimes mixed kumis with hemp seeds, believing it enhanced the drink's spiritual kick. You picture a warrior chugging a hemp-laced batch, grinning as the steppe spirits supposedly whispered to him. Your stomach does a little flip. Was this a sacred ritual, or just a way to make campfires more fun? Joke 2 hemp kumis. That's Scythian, for I'm seeing stars and they're not in the sky. You watch a rider, his leather armor creaking gulp, a bowl like it's water, wiping his beard with a calloused hand. Kumis wasn't just a drink, it was survival, a portable food for nomads who lived on horseback. Historians still debate how central kumis was to Scythian culture. Greek writers like Herodotus raved about its role in feasts and rituals. But was it an everyday drink for herders, or saved for chiefs and shamans? Archaeological finds of kumis bags in burials suggest it was prized, but maybe only the elite. I've got the hemp version. The woman stirring the pot gives you a sharp look like she knows you're overthinking her brew. The sensory hit's vivid. Your skin's cool from the steppe's breeze, but the fire's warmth clings to your face, carrying that sour, milky scent. You hear the soft slosh of the leather sack, the fire's crackle, and the distant whinny of horses. The tent's a mess, spilled milk, a smudge of ash, and a stray hemp seed you're pretending not to notice. You remember Harappa's snail curry, slimy, spicy, weird. This kumis is a new kind of strange, but at least it's not buggy. Joke 3, mare's milk versus snails. Scythians win for least likely to crawl away. You hesitate when the woman offers you a bowl, its froth glinting in the firelight. The smell's enough to make you pause, and that hemp rumour's not helping. You give a polite smile and step back, letting a kid with a felt cap grab it instead. You're starting to get why kumis was sacred. It was life fermented from the steppe's endless gallop. The camp's still alive, and a new scent. Something oily, maybe olive drifts from a distant tent. The ancient world's got more to pour, and you're bracing for the next odd sip. You've left the tangy funk of the Scythian kumis tent behind, the steppe's chilly breeze fading as you step into a warmer, sunnier scene. Your sandals sink into soft, loamy soil, and the air's rich with the fruity scent of ripening architectural ruins, heavy with the sharp, peppery tang of olive oil. You're in an Athenian villa, around 400 BCE Street, anding in a sunlit courtyard where a woman pours golden liquid from a clay amphora into a shallow bowl. The sun warms your skin, and a faint sea breeze carries the salty breath of the nearby Aegean. This is Greek olive oil, the lifeblood of ancient diets, and you're about to taste a staple that's less weird than kumis but still packs a bitter punch. You stand near a marble table watching the woman drizzle oil over a pile of crushed barley and herbs, her hands glistening from the slick liquid. Mainstream fact alert: olive oil was a cornerstone of ancient Greek cuisine used for cooking, lighting, and even skincare. In Athens it was pressed from green olives, harvested in groves like the ones surrounding this villa, producing a peppery, slightly bitter oil that flavoured everything from bread to fish. You imagine dipping a chunk of bread into it. It's smooth, grassy, with a bite that stings the back of your throat. Joke 1 Greek olive oil when your salad dressing doubles as a personality test. The oil's scent is bold, like fresh-cut grass with a hint of almond, and you catch a faint floral note, maybe from wild thyme growing nearby. Here's the quirky tidbit. Greeks sometimes infused their oil with ground scorpions, believing it could cure joint pain or ward off curses. You picture a scorpion's tail floating in your bowl, its sting supposedly soothing your aches. Your stomach does a little twist. Was this medicine, or just a dare to impress the gods? Joke 2 Scorpion oil. That's Greek. For I'll stick to ibuprofen, thanks. You watch a guest, his chiton stained with oil, sop up the mixture, with bread chatting about Socrates like it's no big deal. Olive oil wasn't just food. It was wealth used in trade rituals and even as prizes at festivals. Historians still debate how common flavoured oils were. Texts, like those by Hippocrates, mention medicinal blends, but were scorpions. A delicacy for philosophers, or a folk remedy for farmers. Pottery shards with odd residues suggest someone was experimenting. But you're betting the woman pouring. Oil isn't spilling whether her elite guests got the buggy batch. The sensory hit's vivid. Your skin's warm from the courtyard's sun, but the marble tables cool under your fingers, slick with oil. You hear the soft glug of the amphora, the guests' low laughter, and the distant crash of waves. The table's a mess, crumbs thyme sprigs, and an oil slick shining in the light. You remember the Scythian kumis, sour, fizzy, wild. This oil's tamer, but that scorpion rumor's got you on edge. Joke 3. Scorpion oil versus hemp kumis Greeks. Win for least likely to make you see spirits. You hesitate when the woman offers you a bowl, its surface shimmering like liquid gold. It smells amazing, but the scorpion thing's got you spooked. You give a polite nod and step back, letting a kid with a laurel wreath grab it instead. You're starting to get why olive oil was sacred. It was the sun, the earth, the sea in every drop. The courtyard's still humming, and a new scent, something briny, maybe seaweed, drifts from the kitchen. The Greek world's got more to serve, and you're bracing for the next taste. You've slipped away from the sunlit Athenian villa, the peppery tang of olive oil still tingling on your tongue. The courtyard's warmth fades as you find yourself in a new place. Crete around 1500 BCE, in a Minoan coastal settlement. Your sandals crunch on pebbled paths, the air thick with the salty breath of the Aegean, and a faint briny aroma like seaweed left to dry. The sun's low, painting the whitewashed walls in soft pinks, and your skin feels clammy from the sea's humid kiss. You're drawn to a clay pot simmering over a low fire, where a woman stirs a greenish broth, its surface shimmering with oil. This is Minoan seaweed soup, a coastal staple, and it's about to take you deep into the ancient Mediterranean's briny heart. You crouch near the fire, its gentle heat warming your face, though a cool breeze off the waves keeps you grounded. The soup's scent is wild, salty herbal, with a faint fishy edge that reminds you of low tide. Mainstream fact alert: seaweed was a key part of Minoan diets, especially in coastal areas like Crete. Harvested from rocky shores, it was boiled with herbs, fish, or barley to make hearty soups that fed fishermen and traders. You imagine slurping a spoonful. It's slick, slightly chewy, with a savoury depth that coats your mouth. Joke 1. Minoan seaweed soup when farm to table means straight from the ocean floor. The woman tosses a handful of dried thyme into the pot, and the herbal kick cuts through the briny funk. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Minoan cooks added sea urchins to their soups, cracking them open to scoop out the creamy orange roe for extra richness. You picture a spiky urchin bobbing in your bowl, its briny innards blending with the seaweed. Your stomach does a little twirl. Was this a delicacy, or just a we're out of fish workaround? Joke 2. Sea urchin soup. That's Minoan for I ordered broth. Not a spiky surprise. You watch a sailor, his tunic crusted with salt, ladle the soup into a clay bowl, gulping it down like it's the first meal in days. Seaweed soup wasn't just food. It was survival, tying the Minoans to the sea that shaped their world. Historians still debate how common urchins were in everyday meals. Frescoes show elites feasting on seafood, but urchin shells in village middens suggest regular folks ate them too. Were they a treat for all or a sailor's snack when nets came up empty? The woman stirring the pot gives you a knowing glance, but she's not spilling whether her best customers get the urchin-free batch. The sensory waves vivid. Your skin's damp from the sea's mist, and the fire's warmth battles the breeze, carrying that salty herbal scent. You hear the pot's soft bubble, the woman's low hum, and the distant crash of waves against the cliffs. The stall's a mess. Seaweed scraps a smear of oil, and a stray urchin's spine you're pretending not to see. You remember the Greek olive oil, sharp, grassy, clean. This soup's earthier, wilder, like the sea itself. Joke 3. Seaweed versus scorpions. Minoans win for least likely to sting your tongue. You hesitate when the woman offers you a bowl, its steam curling in the twilight. It smells intriguing, but the urchin thing's got you wary. You give a polite smile and step back, letting a kid with a fishing net grab it instead. You're starting to get why seaweed soup mattered. It was the ocean's gift, a way to thrive on Crete's rocky shores. The settlement's still humming, and a new scent, something faint, maybe lost drifts from the horizon. The ancient world's winding down, but it's got one last taste to share. You've left the briny tang of Minoan seaweed soup behind, the Aegean's salty breeze fading as you find yourself in a quieter, more reflective space. The air's cooler now, almost still carrying only the faint, dusty scent of old clay and forgotten fires. Your sandals scuff against an imagined ground, a patchwork of ancient markets and kitchens from Ur to Chichen Itza. The twilight's deep, the stars above sharper, and your skin feels the ghost of every heat. Bazaars, ovens, step campfires lingering like a memory. You're no longer tied to one place or time. You're drifting through the ancient world, piecing together the lost recipes that once fed empires. This is a moment to pause, to reflect on dishes so strange they've vanished, leaving only crumbs for us to ponder. You're standing metaphorically in a vast silent archive, not of books but of flavors. Picture clay pots cracked and buried, their stains whispering of siqqu or cacao froth. Mainstream fact alert. Ancient cuisines were shaped by survival trade and the land, but many recipes are lost because they were oral, passed from cook to cook, without cuneiform or papyrus. From Mesopotamia's barley porridges to Minoan seaweed soups, these dishes were daily life. Yet most are guesses pieced together from archaeology, pot residues, charred grains, fish bones. You imagine tasting one last time, a mix of grit, spice and hope like every meal you've seen. Joke one lost recipes. The ancient world's way of saying, good luck reverse engineering my stew. Your mind drifts to a specific oddity, a dish too weird to survive the centuries. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some ancient cultures like the Hittites in Anatolia may have eaten fermented grasshopper, paste mashed with herbs, and stored in jars for winter. You picture scooping it from a clay pot. It's pungent, grainy, with a sour kick that screams, don't ask what's in this. Was it a delicacy, a famine food, or just a bold cook's experiment? No one wrote it down, and the jars are long shattered. Your stomach does a soft lurch, bugs again like Egypt's locusts or Maya's ants. Joke 2, grasshopper paste. That's Hittite for I'll starve before I try this. You feel the weight of all these lost foods, each tied to people who haggled, laughed, and prayed over their meals. Historians still debate why some dishes vanished while others, like bread or tamales, endured. Was it taste trade or just luck? Clay tablets and glyphs give clues, but they're silent on the why did kumis die out because it was too horse-heavy? Or did sick fade when better sauces came along? You're betting the cooks you've met from Ur's bakers to Crete's fishers would shrug and say, we ate what worked. Their world feels close, yet impossibly far, like a recipe you can't quite recreate. The sensory hits softer now. Your skin's cool, untouched by any one fire, and the air carries only a faint echo of spices, cumin, chili, thyme, blending into a ghost of ancient kitchens. You hear nothing, just the hum of your own thoughts, and the stall around you is a mental collage. Scattered barley, a cracked amphora, a lone snail shell. You remember Rome's dormice, Han's cicadas, Scythian kumis, each a testament to human ingenuity, or maybe desperation. Joke 3, lost dishes versus modern pizza. The ancients would have traded their bugs for a slice. You don't reach for a bowl this time. There's nothing to taste, only to imagine. The ancient world's kitchens are quiet, their fires long cold. You're starting to get why these foods mattered. They were stories' survival, a way to make sense of a tough world. The stars above feel closer now, and a final scent, something soft like fading embers, drifts through your mind. The ancient world's almost done with you, but it's got one last moment to share, a gentle fade to close the journey. You're still drifting in that quiet, timeless archive of ancient flavors, the echoes of bustling markets and sizzling pots now softened to a whisper. The air's cool, almost weightless, carrying only the faintest trace of charred barley and sea salt, like the ghost of every dish you've tasted. Your sandals no longer scuff against clay or stone. You're standing on nothing, suspended in the twilight of memory. The stars above are bright, their light steady, and your skin feels the gentle chill of a world winding down. This is the end of your journey through the ancient world's strangest dishes, and it's time to linger, to let the fires dim and the flavors fade into a soothing, sleepy hush. You pause, imagining one last kitchen, a blend of Ur's dusty stalls, Pompeii's lavish tables, and Chichen Itza's steamy plazas. The clay pots are empty now, their contents lost to time, but their stories linger. Mainstream fact alert: food was the heartbeat of ancient life, tying people to their land gods and each other. From Mesopotamia's siqqu to Minoan seaweed, every dish was a snapshot of survival trade and ingenuity, even if it made your modern stomach churn. You picture one final taste, a blend of gritty bread, spicy cacao, and that cursed garum, a farewell to the ancient palate. Joke one ancient food, where every bite was a history lesson and a dare. Your mind settles on a final oddity, a dish too fleeting to pin down. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some cultures like the early Persians may have mixed crushed rose petals into their yogurt, believing it calmed the soul. You imagine dipping a spoon into it, cool, creamy, with a floral whisper that feels like a lullaby. Was it a dessert, a ritual, or just a poet's fancy? No tablets tell us, and the roses have long withered. Your heart slows, comforted by the thought, less buggy than Hittite grasshopper paste at least. Joke 2. Rose yogurt. That's Persian, for finally something I'd actually eat. You feel the ancient world slipping away, its kitchens growing silent. Historians still debate why we know so little about these fleeting dishes. Were they too ordinary to record or too sacred to share? Pottery shards and charred seeds give clues, but the full recipes, kumis with hemp, tamales with ants, are gone like dreams you can't quite recall. You're betting the cooks you've met, from Harappa's spice grinders to Scythian milk churners, would smile and say, "We fed our people. That's enough." Their fires are out, but their warmth lingers, a soft glow in your mind. The sensory waves barely a ripple now. Your skin's cool, untouched by heat or dust, and the air's empty save for a faint, fading ember scent. You hear nothing, just the slow rhythm of your own breath, steady calm. The stall around you is gone, replaced by a vast, starry quiet with no sick jars or dormice to dodge. You remember every stop: locusts, cicadas, snails, and smile at the absurdity, the resilience. Joke 3. Ancient menus versus modern ones. I'll take a burger over bug soup any day. Now let's ease you into the night. Picture yourself lying back, the stars above, spinning slow, each one a tiny spark from those ancient fires. The bazaars are silent, the woks cold, the tamales unwrapped and shared. You're not hungry anymore. You're full of stories of people who turned bugs and barley into life. Their world feels far, but it's in you. The grit of their bread, the spice of their cacao, the courage of their weird, wild meals. Let your breath slow, matching the gentle lap of the Euphrates, the Nile, the Aegean. The air's soft now, no fishy garum or sour kumis to jolt you, just quiet. Your eyelids grow heavy like clay lids, sealing a jar, locking in the day's heat. Those cooks, those traders, they're resting too, their work done, their pots still. You don't need to wander anymore. The ancient world's tucked you in its flavors, fading like a dream. Feel your shoulders sink, your thoughts drift, carried on a breeze that smells of nothing but peace. The stars blur soft as rose petals in yogurt, and you're slipping into a place where no snails or locusts can follow. Just you, the dark, and a whisper of history singing you to sleep. Sweet dreams.